Thokozani emakhosini camaku. Thank you for joining me for another video. In the previous video, we got into the story of Lazarus and the rich man, and we learned a number of things. Number one, that we are gathered to our ancestors when we die. Number two, there is the place of paradise and the place of hell to which we go when we die. Number three, spirits are able to communicate with each other, and spirits remember what they did whilst they were alive. They still possess their personalities. Number four, the life here that we live on earth is a prelude to the next realm, meaning the life that we live now is temporary, and we are yet to enter into the eternal when we pass on. Number five, your physical parents who birthed you are your first ancestors that God gives you, but your father and your mother speaks to everyone who is in your bloodline, who came before you. Meaning, your ancestors are your fathers and mothers. So in this video, we're going to look at the two places that we are gathered to, paradise and hell. Let's get into it. So we'll be first looking at Enoch, whom God did not allow to taste death. We'll be specifically looking at what happened at the birth of Noah. Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she bore him as a man-child. The body of the babe was white as snow and red as a blooming rose, and the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes like the rays of the sun. When he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very full of light. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, he opened his mouth and praised the Lord of righteousness. His father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and came to his own father Methuselah, and said to him, I have begotten a strange son. He is not like a human being, but resembles the children of the angels of heaven, and his nature is different, and he is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels, and I fear that in his days a wonder may be wrought on the earth. And now, my father, I am here to petition thee and implore thee that thou mayst go to Enoch, our father, and learn from him the truth, for his dwelling place is among the angels. And when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he went to Enoch, to the ends of the earth, and cried aloud. And Enoch heard his voice, and appeared before him, and asked him the reason of his coming. Methuselah told him the cause of his anxiety, and requested him to make the truth known to him. Enoch answered and said, The Lord will do a new thing in the earth. There will come a great destruction on the earth, and a deluge for 1 year. This son who is born unto thee will be left on the earth, and his 3 children will be saved with him, when all mankind that are on the earth shall die. And there will be a great punishment on the earth, and the earth will be cleansed from all impurity. And now make known to thy son Lamech that he who was born is in truth his son, and call his name Noah, for he will be left to you, and he and his children will be saved from the destruction which will come upon the earth. When Methuselah heard the words of his father, who showed him all the secret things, he returned home, and he called the child Noah, for he would cause the earth to rejoice in compensation for all destruction. So this happened after Enoch had ascended, because it says that Enoch's dwelling place was with the angels. But Enoch was still able to appear to Methuselah to make the truth known about his grandson, Noah. So I'd like us to take note of a few things in this passage. This happened after Enoch had ascended. So technically Enoch was an ancestor, even though he didn't taste death, but his body had transformed in order to dwell in the place of the angels. Okay, so Enoch was able to shed light on something that had deeply concerned Lamech. Okay, Lamech asked his father to please go to his grandfather Enoch. All right, speak to the ancestor and please inquire of this child that is born unto me. Okay, he was deeply concerned about what had transpired. So this is the role of your ancestors. This is one of the roles of your ancestors. Okay, they are supposed to guide you into all truth. They are supposed to shed light and wisdom and truth on particular events that happen in your life. Okay, so this is nothing untoward. You don't hear Enoch requesting, please, can I have a sacrifice of a child or an animal of any sort. There's nothing untoward. This is the relationship that we ought to have with our ancestors. They are to guide us into all truth. Now the question remains, if the ancestors are able to come to us, from where are they coming? We are now going to be taking a look at the places to which the fathers are gathered to, where we go when we pass on from this physical realm. From the story of Lazarus, we take note that Hades and Paradise are on the same plane. They are adjacent to each other. In the previous video, we learned that as much as one can be gathered to their righteous fathers, one can also be gathered to their unrighteous fathers. Hades and Paradise are the two places we will be now looking at. Let's begin with Paradise. Here in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, we read about Paul's vision. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago, whether in the body I do not know, or out of the body I do not know, only God knows. Such a man was caught up to the third heaven. And I know that such a man, whether in the body or out of the body I do not know, only God knows, was caught up into Paradise, and heard inexpressible words which man is not permitted to speak, words too sacred to tell. So we see here that Paul ascended to, or the man he was referring to, he ascended to the third heaven, where he was caught up into Paradise. So Paradise is in the third heaven. So this passage is from when he was hanging on, from when Msindisi was hanging on the cross. But the other one rebuked him, saying, do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? We are suffering justly because we are getting what we deserve for what we have done. But this man, Msindisi, has done nothing wrong. And he was saying, Msindisi, please remember me when you come into your kingdom. Msindisi said to him, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, today you will be with me in Paradise. So Msindisi was also gathered into Paradise. You could say he was gathered unto his fathers. He went to the same place that Abraham was, and Lazarus. They were gathered to their ancestors. Now let's read the book of Enoch. This is the part when the angels had taken Enoch for a little tour of the heavens and explaining to him how everything was working. And those men took me thence and led me up unto the third heaven and placed me there. And I looked downwards, and saw the produce of these places, such as never been known for goodness. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the foods born from them bubbling with fragrant exhalation. And in the midst of the trees that of life, in that place whereon the Lord rests, when he goes up into paradise. And this tree is of ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing. And on all sides it is in form gold-looking and vermilion, and fire-like, and covers all. And it has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end, and paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And two springs come out, which send forth milk, honey and milk, and their springs send forth oil and wine. And they separate into 4 parts, and go around with quiet course, and go down into the paradise of Eden, between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go forth along the earth, and have a revolution of their circle, even as other elements. And here there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 angels very bright, who keep the garden, and with incense sweet singing and never silent voices serve the Lord throughout all days and hours. And I said, how very sweet is this place. And those men said to me, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity, and make righteous judgments, and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help the injured orphans, and who walk without fault before the face of the Lord, and serve him alone. For them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance. So here we find out that this place, paradise, is given unto the righteous as an inheritance for living righteously on the earth. This is the place where Msindisi said that would be prepared for us, that he would go and prepare a place. This is paradise on the third heaven that righteous people ascend to. But like I said, paradise and Hades or hell is on the same plane. They are right next to each other. Though there is a gap, but they are both on the third heaven. And this is the place where the unrighteous are gathered to. If you die in unrighteousness, you are gathered to your unrighteous ancestors on the third heaven. Let's read about Hades. And those 2 men led me upon the northern side, and showed me there a very terrible place, and there were all manner of tortures in that place, cruel darkness and unillumined gloom, and there is no light there, but murky fire constantly flameth aloft, and there is a fiery river coming forth, and that whole place is everywhere fire, and everywhere there is frost and ice, thirst and shivering, while the bonds are very cruel, and the angels fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, woe, woe, how very terrible is this place. And those men said to me, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor God, who on earth practice sin against nature, which is child corruption, after the sodomitic fashion, magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lies, calumnies, envy, rancor, fornication, murder, and who accursed steal the souls of men. Who who, seeing the poor, take away their goods and themselves wax rich, injuring them for other men's goods, who, being able to satisfy the empty, made the hungering to die, being able to clothe, stripped the naked, and who knew not their Creator, and bowed down to soulless gods, who cannot see nor hear, vain gods, who also built hewn images, and bow down to unclean handiwork. For all these is prepared this place among these, for eternal inheritance. So on the third heaven still Enoch was shown where the unrighteous go, as part of their inheritance. It is a terrible place with various torches, fire, and ice. Here it says, who bowed down to soulless gods, who cannot see nor hear, vain gods, who also built hewn images and bow down to unclean handiwork. I think even this image, the white image of Jesus, is an unclean handiwork. This is why I also state that it's important for us to depart from Christianity, because it is doctrines of men and not of God. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, my point of this teaching is to show us that our lives here on earth is temporary, and we ought to live with that thought in mind. We shouldn't be too carried away with the things of this world. We should always remember that this life is temporary, and how we conduct ourselves will grant us an inheritance either of paradise or of Hades. Here in 2 Ezra chapter 8 verse 50, it says, "For many great miseries will be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. But understand thou for thyself, and seek out the glory for such as be like thee. For unto you is paradise opened, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared. Plenteousness is made ready, the city is builded, and rest is allowed, yea, perfect goodness and wisdom." And with that, I will just read Revelation chapter 2. "He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. To him that overcometh what? Overcometh the offenses that come from unrighteousness, whilst we are here on the earth. To him that overcomes all those things will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God." Thokozani emakosini.